How in the world are you supposed to create all this content that they tell you you're supposed to create while also maintaining and running a, at least hopefully, successful business? Well, we're going to change the way you think about content creation today, because not only can it help your existing business, it can also give you a whole new business that you didn't even anticipate. And luckily for you, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's show. Welcome to the Storytelling Lab, where we break down the art and science of storytelling. My name is Bennett. I'm your host, and I'm a filmmaker and an author on a quest to understand how we can tell better stories so that we can do better work and make the world a better place. Each episode, I host one of the world's best storytellers to help you understand how to leverage storytelling to increase your sales, deepen your connections, and serve your audiences better. What's up, storytellers? Welcome back to the Storytelling Lab podcast. This is episode 197, and today is a very special day because today is my birthday. So everybody say happy birthday, Rain. Happy birthday, Rain. Listen, let's cut to the chase. If you want to give me a birthday present, you know what I would really, really love is a review and a shout out for the Storytelling Lab and all of the help that we have given you over all the years in your storytelling journey, if you want to. No pressure, no pressure. But I would honestly love that. There's nothing that helps the show more than reviews. And I will tell you one thing. I got an email this week that we are finding newer and newer listeners every week, every show, every month. And that makes me so happy and so grateful. And if you wanted to do anything in return for dear old Rain, that would be a great thing, and it's for free, and it takes like 30 to 60 seconds. So that would be awesome if you could do that. Now, this is also a very special show because today my guest on the show is Shawn Walchef, and Shawn is the owner and founder of Cali BBQ. He is a restaurateur, he is a chef, but he also owns Cali BBQ Media, and this guy has created an entire media empire based on the concept of don't be the commercial, be the show. This comes straight out of the Gary Vaynerchuk playbook of like, don't create, document. Just follow your life. Just create content based on what you do. People love to see behind the scenes. So now he hosts podcasts like Digital Hospitality, Restaurant Influencers. Heck, the guy just had Shaq on his show like a month or two ago. And listen, every episode that I have, every guest that I have helps me and changes me a little bit. I learned something too. This is my selfish reason for starting the show, but also obviously to help you all in your storytelling journeys. But I get to get the benefit of it too, which is such a great extra benefit. This guy in this conversation genuinely, I wrote him afterwards and told him this, genuinely changed the way that I viewed content creation, even my own. He is a chef that created a media business. I am a filmmaker by trade. That's what lights my heart on fire. I want to go tell and create great stories for people to enjoy. And I like this stuff as well. I like to nerd out about storytelling, but I constantly feel like these two worlds are at conflict with one another. How can I grow a podcast empire or a media business while also just trying to be an artist, trying to be a filmmaker? He changed the way I view this. And I'm getting really excited and animated right now, but that's because, and I say it on the show, I felt a little bit attacked. The things that he was saying was exactly the things that I were doing, like the mindset things that were holding me back. His simple piece of advice, and there was a lot more than just this simple piece of advice, was to do more. When you feel like you can't, that's when you need to be doing more and finding a way to do it. Offloading these things that you're doing yourself, because right now, I'll tell you how I feel, and maybe you feel the same way. How can I do anymore? I have all these other shows that I want to do in my mind. I have all these other films and stories that I want to tell in my mind. How can I do it all? Well, he helps you and I through understanding how to streamline your business so that you can create content, and more importantly, why you should do it. Not just because the gurus tell you to, because it will help your business, but also help you in your path and your journey of who you are trying to become. You're not just limited to being the one thing, and these two things don't have to be at odds and working against each other. If you do them right, like Shawn teaches, they help each other. That's the goal. Then you can go be a podcast host and nerd out about cooking like Shawn does, and also have your 17 years in running restaurant that is successful. You can have it all, but you have to make sure that one hand is feeding the other, right? It's not about doing less or doing the bare minimum. It's about figuring out how you can do more. And yes, you need to delegate. Yes, you need to have a team. Yes, you might have to pay for things. And yes, you might not be ready to do those yet. But as soon as you are, that's how you grow and scale. Super, super inspirational and very impactful in understanding how to use storytelling to further propel your business by creating content, all kinds of content. Don't be the commercial, be the show. You are the show, no matter what your business is. If you're a solopreneur, if you're an artist, if you're a startup, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a thought leader, if you're just a mechanic or someone doing a trade, I don't mean just as if that's not as good, but I'm saying anything can be compelling. It's your perspective on it and giving people a peek behind the curtains, inviting people into your world, into your show. Create a series. Create a show. Could be on TikTok, could be on Instagram, it could be a podcast. Create a show about the work that you do in the world and invite people in to watch it, and they will. So, here is my conversation with Shawn Walchef, and I hope that you love it. Shawn, welcome to the Storytelling Lab.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I think I've been doing the show maybe 6 years now or so. I don't think that I've ever had a restaurateur, a chef on the show, at least that I know about. So it's pretty cool to have you here, and I'm excited about that because I worked at, my brother is a caterer, and I have worked in the hospitality industry a little bit, and I just know that it's like prime for storytelling. I mean, it is all experience, it is all emotion. So I just want to jump right in and you know, can you tie those two together for me? Like, tell me in your words how rich that industry is for potential to tell stories.
Sure. So we opened up Cali BBQ in 2008 during the Great Recession. Getting in the restaurant business is hard. Yeah. It was hard in the Great Recession. It was hard throughout the last 17 years, you know, getting through the pandemic. But I think one of the most important things that I learned, which I reference a lot, is the movie Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner, I think, you know, the problem with business owners and entrepreneurs is we fall into this lure, if you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
No one's coming. Like, that's the hard stop, hard truth, is that no one's coming to share your story about what you're building, why you're building it. And the sad reality is that, you know, we almost failed being able to pay our bills, being able to pay payroll, just trying to figure out a way to run a profitable restaurant business, get people to come to a difficult part of town in San Diego. So we're kind of off the beaten path. We're not downtown Gaslamp, San Diego, or La Jolla, you know, places they tell you location, location, location. Well, I didn't take that advice, and I made the most difficult location. But because of that difficult location, I think that became our competitive advantage, realizing how important story was, realizing how important the internet was, Web 2.0, you know, 2008, Facebook started. We started doing things on Yelp. We started doing things on Google. We started doing things that a lot of restaurant owners waited until the pandemic to realize that the internet actually is a place to build business, that we have all these free tools that are available to us, like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, podcasting, and yeah, I mean, it's been one hell of a ride. I built a media company on top of my restaurant business. So for 8 years, we've been running a media business, and 5 years we made no money. We started a podcast that no one listened to. Just started doing the reps, weekly shows, audio only to begin with. And then eventually we added video, and now we have 9 shows that we produce as a team. So Cali BBQ Media, we have 9 shows. One of those being on Entrepreneur Magazine called Restaurant Influencers. Mm-hmm. Had some big guests on that show. And then we also produce shows for other hospitality brands. So restaurant technology companies come to us and we help them with their storytelling.
You kind of alluded to this already with, like, the people have the if you build it, they will come mentality. I think there might be some parallels between your world and my world. I have a filmmaking background, documentary filmmaking for about 20 years. And often I see that too with artists. Chefs are obviously artists, yep. Where I just want to make my art. I just want to cook my food. And I don't want to do this thing. Like, I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to be a content creator. If I build it, if I make it, they will come. Do you find that your peers, your contemporaries, are a little reluctant to jump into that social media content creation game?
Absolutely. I mean,
Why is that?
I think a lot of it, to be honest with you, comes down to the greatest human fear, which is public speaking. It's an interesting topic. I'm fortunate to go all over the country, speak at conferences, talk to technologists, restaurant owners about social media and storytelling. And I think the more that I get into it, the more I realize that people just have a fear of looking stupid and sounding stupid. And that's the hard stop. Like, that is the problem. They have a fear of, what will my friends think of me if I post on Facebook? What will my colleagues think if I post on LinkedIn? I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to stutter. It's not going to be the quality that I want, because we see what we want. We see our peers, our contemporaries, the influencers. Like, I really like that style of video, and I want my restaurant to look like that, or I want my dish to look like that. Guess what? It looked like shit in the beginning until it started to get a little bit better, and it's funny because I tell people we make our media the same way we make our barbecue, and that's low and slow. We made terrible barbecue in the beginning. Like, it was really bad. Like, we didn't add brisket. It was the last thing that we added to the menu. Well, just like we added video to the menu. Like, now we're doing all of these things, and I'm willing to fall on my face. I'm willing to look stupid. I'm willing to sound stupid. But now I don't look so stupid anymore. A guy that built a media business on top of his restaurant. I mean, we're starting to get a lot of traction at, some of the biggest shows, right. Some of the biggest brands, the Googles of the world, the Amazons of the world, the Pepsis of the world. They're reaching out for us to help them, not on the B2C side, because they understand how. I don't need to tell Pepsi how to sell Pepsi, but how to tell Pepsi how to sell to restaurant owners that might be using a different beverage company. Yeah. That's a different story to tell.
Great point. It's funny, as you were describing that mentality, it's weird because if you're trying out new dishes, like you were kind of going to, like it's all experimenting. Same with me. If I'm writing stories, or creating a film, or any artist, like, it's strange that they have that feeling with video, because I see it, especially as you were describing, as very similar. It's something new. You got to experiment. You got to fall on your face, break a few eggs, et cetera, et cetera. So you would think that there might be a little more risk tolerance there. Maybe they're just saturated.
Yeah, you would think, and I think, I'm fortunate that we had no choice. Right. Like, we would go out of business if I didn't get my act together and, take out my phone and start to learn, all of these different tools, because that was the only option, and I didn't want to fail. And since I didn't want to fail, I was willing to do anything and everything to try to get people to come into our restaurant.
Did you have anybody kind of mentoring you, or like that was advising you or guiding you at that stage? Like, hey man, you got to do this, that kind of pushed you out of that comfort zone?
I mean, I would say yes. There's mentors, silent mentors. Started listening to people like Gary Vaynerchuk and listening to his podcast around 2017. I think he launched his show the same year that we launched our show, our first podcast, Behind the Smoke. David Meltzer's a media mentor of mine. There's a lot of people. It's crazy because of technology, you can literally sit down for free and you can have access to some of the smartest minds in storytelling, in marketing, in sales. And if you're willing to, my grandfather, it's something that I talk about all the time, but my grandfather, he taught me to stay curious, to get involved, and to ask for help. Mm-hmm. That's it. Curious people listen to a show like this. Curious people open up a book. Curious people go to a conference. But you actually have to do something with that curiosity. You actually have to raise your hand. You have to get involved, and you have to take something that you heard on this show, like, oh, I need to start doing video for my social media. And you actually have to make a video. You have to post the video. And then finally, you have to ask for help. And that's, one of the hardest lessons for me. I still struggle to this day. That's why I talk about it all the time, is asking for help. There's people that have the answers to the test. I mean, they know how to do it, why to do it, how to do it better, how to do it faster, how to do it with better quality. It doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes, but you might as well make less mistakes if you're willing to reach out and find a mentor, someone like you, someone like me. I mean, I share my time probably too much. We try to put out as much free content as possible for restaurant owners and business owners, to let them know that, we can't take this stuff for granted. We don't need to make YouTube. It's there. Is YouTube hard? Absolutely. YouTube is the hardest OG platform for social media, long form storytelling. But does that mean that it matters more than anything? Because those 70 people that will see a YouTube video of mine, those are the people that I actually want. I don't care if 70,000 people see a short form video on TikTok about me. But the 70 people that will find me on YouTube that care about business, that care about storytelling, that care about restaurants, that care about technology, those are my people. Those are the people that are going to go and fly to Chicago to come and see me speak.
That's such a good point. At this moment, I've got a video on TikTok it's not going viral, but doing pretty well. And it has nothing. It's literally a shot of, I was at Santa Cruz last week and shot the boardwalk and put like the Lost Boys theme behind it. I was like, name the movie, just like a joke post. None of those people are ever going to like transfer to anything. Yeah. That's such a great point, but you're right. The 70 that will tune in on YouTube are the your quote unquote super fans, right?
Yep.
So you started off podcasting. Is that the first platform that kind of like, you sunk your teeth into?
I would say, we've been dabbling in all the social media. Facebook obviously was the first thing that I resisted. I made fun of my best friend and business partner. I was like, what are you doing on Facebook? Like trying to pick up chicks? Like we're trying to run a business here. Dude. And then I realized like, oh, our business is failing. Like maybe I should post something about, barbecue or, the sports that we're watching or, the community events that we're doing. So yeah, it was an evolution. It's been, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok but I consider ourselves a media company. When I learned how to tell our story. Mm-hmm. So who are we and what do we believe in? Why are we building what we're building? And then I started to learn how to tell other people's stories, meaning like that was the point where as a podcaster, I started asking questions of other people that were much smarter than me that I was curious about and brought the audience along on the journey.
That's a great transition. Talk to me about the differences, because that's a skill you have to cultivate to learn how to tap in and find your story that makes you stand out and differentiates you. What is the difference in understanding how do I speak to someone else and unearth their stories versus finding my own?
Yeah, podcasting is a beautiful gift that allows you to learn how to chase your curiosity. And the better that you get at asking questions, the better the answers and the more impact that you make. I've gotten a lot better at asking better questions. I've gotten a lot better at listening. I still have a long way to go, and I still, study the greatest interviewers in the craft, because for me, it is chasing my curiosity. The fact that I, recently interviewed Shaquille O'Neal on my show and sat down with him for a half an hour. I was with him for 2 hours in a green room at his Big Chicken conference that his team paid for my media team to be there. I'm interviewing Shaquille O'Neal, and in the middle of the interview, Dana White walks in because he's a keynote speaker. So Dana White walked into the middle of the interview, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I started as a restaurant owner, and then I started doing barbecue, and then we started this podcast journey, and who would have ever thought that I would be paid for this opportunity to sit down with one of the greatest entrepreneurs, one of the greatest basketball players, Hall of Famer, just an incredible human being, and then have Dana White walk into the middle of the interview. But the answer is you have to keep going and doing the work. Because there's so many dark times as a business owner, as a podcaster, as a storyteller, where you're like, no one cares. And no one does care. Like no one's watching and no one's listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. It's you tied the bow on it perfectly, because when you were earlier, when we were talking, expanding on being curious, you were talking about it in terms of social media, etc. And then you've tied it perfectly where I wanted to go with it, because we talk about it too in the world of documentary filmmaking, interviewing, right? Asking questions. the fact that you said curiosity, I was sitting there just, clapping in my head, because that's exactly what, if I'm teaching a kid how to be a documentary film, like how to interview people better, that's it. Like, there's no tactic really. It's like genuinely being curious, not scripting everything. I've got a few bullet points that I want to get to, but I like to show up and just chat with you and see where the conversation goes. And you can't do that unless you genuinely care. Like, I'm curious to, for example, my next question. I was thinking about this when I was, studying up on you, and I wondered nowadays, how do you identify? Do you view yourself as a chef or as like a media person? Now, media person sounds ridiculous, but like, you own a media company, but your background is obviously in restaurants, and you kind of seem to be juggling both equally right now. Which one do you lean towards more? Are you in a transition? Where's it going?
I'll tell you a quick story.
Please.
My junior year, I went to study abroad in Alicante, Spain. So I was studying abroad in Alicante. At the time, I was going to the University of Colorado, and I never met my father. My grandfather, my Bulgarian grandfather, he raised me. And at the end of his life, he wanted to start writing his memoir. He wanted to share his story with the world of becoming a Bulgarian immigrant, being born on a farm, being doubted by everyone in the farm, that he would be able to study and become a medical doctor. And during World War II in Germany, getting recruited by the Nazis, but he was able to, study medicine, come all the way over to San Diego and to La Jolla and to build an incredible life. And he's like, Shawn, I need help writing my story. So while I was in Spain at the Plaza de Toros, I remember calling him from the payphone. I didn't have a cell phone at the time. This was 2003. But calling him from the payphone, the Plaza de Toros, center of the city, and he was like, Shawn, I need help with my story. I don't trust anybody else to help me get this book out into the world. And I was like, Grandpa, I will transfer from University of Colorado to University of San Diego, which is where he lived. I'll come back home and we will finish the book. That was really the beginning of my storytelling journey. And your question of whether I would consider myself a restaurateur or a storyteller or a media personality, I truly believe that I'm on a journey to not only share my story and my grandfather's story, but to help other entrepreneurs, business owners, and frankly, family members understand that the best stories are right in front of us. Until my grandfather started, and we would go to writers' conferences, we would read books on how to share your story with others. He started changing at the end of his life because he was so reserved in the things that he wanted to share. But when you're reserved in what you want to share, and then you actually want to write a book, those two things clash. And he has to start getting into detail about these events that happened into his life, about what was happening at the time. What did it smell like? What did it taste like? And by bringing me into that story, I realized so many people that are listening to this podcast, that are going to watch this show, you have a dad, you have a mom, you have a grandpa, you have a grandmother. And like, we have so much technology that allows us to literally record. I mean, if I had this iPhone back when I was with my grandfather, he always was fascinated with technology. He wanted to have a dictating machine where he could dictate, the words that were coming out of his mouth onto the computer. And like 2003, that didn't exist. Guess what? That's here. Not only is that here, but I have, 6K camera that I can take to the village. I'm going to Bulgaria, where my grandfather's from. I married a Bulgarian woman. So now my children are more Bulgarian than I am. And I'm going to go back to the village, and I'm going to sit down, and I have an iPhone. I don't need to bring my media team. I have a full production team that travels with me, that we do, lots of big events, big shoots. I can take my iPhone, and I can sit down with anyone in the village and get their story, ask them questions. And for me, I think that's the ultimate gift that we all have, is that we have the technology to publish. We have the technology to share. And to the point of the viral videos, we don't need viral videos. We need to record it for my son, and I need to record it for my daughter and for their kids into the future.
Yeah, a lot of what we talk about on the show, or something that I'm very not passionate about, but just a part of the storytelling universe that I love so much is how every culture has had this like tribal storyteller, right, to pass down the histories, and we seem to have like lost that culturally, though the ability is much more there now with technology that we have. And I think that the pendulum is swinging back, but I always love that if you can go Celtic culture, Bulgarian culture, West African culture, like everybody has always had this dedicated person to pass down the stories. I think that's so beautiful, you know, that you landed on that and see the value in that kind of organically. And I love how it transitions to your work. It sounds like you're a storyteller at heart that happens to, you know, to be a chef.
Yeah.
Man, that's really awesome. I want to kind of flip that a bit in terms of like how you identify on an emotional level or whatever, and also talk about the practical approach to this, like logistically. How do you juggle all of this? I mean, for lack of a better question, when you are running a business, especially one of the hardest businesses there is,
Yeah.
and most stressful and time consuming, how do you do that and then also consistently create content? Because we know that's the issue, right? It's not, you can't put out one post a month and hope for anything. What's your approach to handle that?
I'll share a couple equations that we teach to help business owners, get into the storytelling mode. One of those is we all want quality videos. And the thing that prevents quality is fear. Back to what we talked about before, is I have this fear that I'm going to look stupid or sound stupid. But the answer, how do you make quality videos, is through quantity, speed, and consistency. Eventually, you'll get to quality. But the problem is people don't put in a quantity of work. You have to put this bulk of work that no one cares about, that no one watches, that everyone's going to criticize you for. But you got to do it with speed, and you got to do it consistently. And as you do that, you get better at making videos, you get better at making podcasts, you get better at making blog posts. Eventually, the quality absolutely will come. And that gets into the cycle. How do we think of creating content? We think of 4 Ps: planning, producing, publishing, promoting. That's the cycle. Some people are really good at planning. Some people aren't good at producing. Publishing might be one of the hardest Ps, because just because you have a photo or a video on your phone doesn't mean that it's actually hit the internet. Content in the clouds is for the birds. You actually have to hit publish. That's where the rubber hits the road. You hit publish on YouTube, you hit publish on LinkedIn, you hit publish on Instagram. Wherever that is, if it doesn't hit the internet, nobody knows about it. Nobody cares. And then finally, promoting. Promoting is actually engaging, so not posting and ghosting. Figuring out the nuances of every platform. Just because you make a video, and yes, you can use it on Reels and TikTok and YouTube, like there are nuances to every platform. Yeah. And the more that you get into the playground and get dirty and get your hands dirty, the more you realize like there's lots of opportunities to do with original content across platforms if you modify it correctly.
So I don't have no problem admitting that I felt a little personally attacked just now.
my job as a coach is to make, if I don't make you feel uncomfortable, then we haven't grown.
Yeah, I thought we were becoming friends, and now I feel like, you know, you're coming for me, pal.
You're coming for me, yeah.
So if you're like me, and I've had teams that have expanded, but I've pretty much been a solopreneur my whole career. And you don't have, a lot of people grow to the point where they have a media team and they can do it. Obviously, you didn't start off that way. What's your advice for that person or, you know, small brand that doesn't have a real team yet? They're kind of doing it on their own in terms of the 4 Ps and how to be consistent, because at that point, I mean, maybe this never goes away. You kind of just feel like you're constantly drowning and you can't hold up all the plates, et cetera, et cetera. But you need to somehow. What's the way?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the best things that I ever did in the beginning of when we started podcasting was figuring out a way to have my social media manager be my producer. So I found money that I didn't have. so that I wouldn't have to produce the podcast as much as I wanted to produce the podcast.
Yeah.
That was probably the smartest thing that I ever did. The thing that I wish I could go back and tell myself is to hire faster, because there's so many incredibly talented people in storytelling that have a radio background, a TV background, like legacy media background, or a new media background, that are just looking for consistent income. I mean, we're talking about the creator economy, where there is really, really talented people that don't know how to get brand deals, don't know how to get clients, don't know how to do the business side of the creator economy. And if you can provide a stable income at whatever rate makes sense for you and makes sense for them, it gives you the opportunity to free up some of your time to do those other things that help you build an actual media brand, something that's scalable. Because I mean, if we're honest about it, every media company's, it's, you know, one of my favorite stories was I became friends with a gentleman named Scott Heath. He runs San Diego Fox 5 TV down here. He's probably one of the smartest people. I've had him on my podcast, and I remember talking to him about the media business, and he said, "Shawn, I'm not in the media business. I'm in the sales and marketing business." And that's the truth. You know, that's probably where it hurts creators the most, is that we expect that if we get better at our craft, whether that's podcasting, whether that's making videos, that, you know, these are like people that have millions of views, and you're waiting like, well, if I get 2 million views, that's when everything changes. It's like, no, everything changes is when you stop with that and you start building a team that actually can do sales and marketing, and you can build a product, and you can figure out a way to get revenue.
At what point, what was the transition between creating your own content and when you started really creating this media company and also helping others create theirs? Because that's a whole new revenue stream. Second show?
Second show. I tell podcasters all the time, I thought the answer was one show a week, 52 weeks out of the year, publish long form content no matter what, turn it into short form content, make an article out of it. The answer changed when I doubled my capacity. Like doubling my capacity, pushing my team to doing 2 shows a week is where we started actually not only getting a sponsorship for the bigger show, the second show, but then we actually started monetizing the first show. Economies of scale. The answer is more. The answer goes back to the equation: quantity, speed, consistency. Like if I could tell myself back in 2017, Shawn, the faster you can get to 2 shows a week, the faster you'll monetize, and this thing will start to make sense. I'll go and I'll shake him and say, "Shawn, please just figure it out. Figure it out. Do whatever you have to do."
This is it's not funny is not the right word, but I mean, part of why I have the show and the little extra benefit that I get is like, I get to learn from everybody, right? I mean, this is, you know, even though I have a storytelling background, like you learn something different from everybody. We all come from different experiences, right? But so that's my little like side benefit, is like I get to take these gems too and put them in my pocket. Dude, right now I'm thinking like there's a second show idea that I want to do. And I'm like, man, I really think that, you know, I want to do that, but how can I?
Yep.
Is literally the conversation that I've been having over the past like few weeks or months. Thinking, because again, I'm kind of a solopreneur. I have people that, you know, that help on a contract basis.
Yep.
But that's so funny to hear you say that, because I'm in that moment where it's just like, but I still got to do my work, and how am I going to do another show? And like that's what's happening.
Rain, I would challenge you to say that we're recording this here in 2025.
Yeah.
You have no idea what your capacity is. Like we could look back in 2026, 2027 and be like, you remember when you only had 2 shows and now you have 7 and now you have 15? And like show is such a loose word. My hat says be the show, not the commercial.
Oh, we're going to talk about that, pal. All right. I'm going to hijack the conversation from my audience. Sorry, guys, but hopefully you get some benefit from this too.
Go.
Okay, so I want to go back to the identity part. Like if I was to flesh that out, the 7 shows, because I love creating this stuff too. I'm chronically like stuck sometimes because I have so many different passions.
Yep.
That's why I love looking at someone like your story, because I don't want to say you have it all. That sounds ridiculous, but like you're doing the things that you are passionate about.
Yes, I couldn't be in a better place right now.
Right.
have this conversation with you knowing that we're just getting started and we're
Yeah,
17
man.
years
It's
in.
so inspiring. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you about it. And I know we just met, but I'm super proud of your journey doing that. It's super inspiring. You know, I asked you in the very beginning about the identity. So I'm a filmmaker, and there's screenplays I'm writing right now. I'm transitioning from documentary filmmaking to narrative. So like, that's my chef, right? Like, that's my core. But I love having these conversations. I love public speaking. I love teaching storytelling. I love all this stuff too. And I have been viewing them as like, you know, not at arms, but like getting in each other's way.
Yep.
And if I want to be this, then I kind of have to like, almost like it's a zero-sum game. Like, I need to like decrease the other one. But it sounds like, I mean, if you're saying like do more, it doesn't feel like you've lost that identity as like, I'm still a chef. I still own a restaurant.
I mean, that, to be honest with you, that's my competitive advantage. And I would argue that's your competitive advantage. I mean, I make media for restaurant owners, for business owners. Like, that is I'm competing against people that are journalists, people that have media companies, but they don't own and operate restaurants currently like I do. I just make the thing that I want to see and I want to watch and I want to listen to.
Who are your favorite people to talk to? I mean, obviously, what are your favorite stories to tell or help reveal?
I mean, for me, it's always, I love bringing in creators into the restaurant ecosystem. So someone like Sam, the cooking guy, who is a YouTube personality, he's a mentor of mine. I've had him on all of my shows, but his ability to talk to an audience, to build a digital audience. He did it in the legacy media. He did it here locally in San Diego on TV. But now he has a extremely successful YouTube channel, TikTok account, Instagram account, does brand deals. He was in the restaurant space. People like that think differently. And I think for me, when you're thinking differently, you have that competitive advantage that starts to attract the type of people that you want in your circle.
Quick tangent or side note. Speaking of mentors, you had mentioned earlier David Meltzer, which is kind of coincidental. I've just been talking with him over the past week.
Awesome.
Just came back from a trip and had his book sent to me. What was your initial connection with him?
I've been working with Dave since pre-pandemic, since 2019.
Wow.
So he came on a local sports radio show, the Scott and BR show, and I heard him telling his story about a business owner that started becoming a speaker and doing consulting, and eventually started doing storytelling. And I was like, I should reach out to him. And him and I have been working together. He's helping me with what we call the stage theory, meaning that Shakespeare shared that the world is your stage. And that was thousands of years ago. And now here we are where literally the world is your stage if you choose to publish content onto the internet, find your truth, talk about the things that matter. And him and I have been doing some great work together. We just got back. I had him come out to the National Restaurant Show in Chicago. We recorded some podcasts together, and we're going to do some big stuff next year at the show also.
That's awesome, man. He's another beast, man. He is ever present.
Yep.
It seems, and really still like very accessible.
Very accessible.
Which I think is
weirdly available.
Right, which is such a great trait for someone, with a following that size and with that much going on. I really appreciate that about him. So you mentioned the hat. I noticed that early on. I mean, I had seen that's kind of your tagline. You also mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk early on. So it reminds me of the don't create, document kind of mantra that he's had. And I love it so much because we talk a lot on the show about, it's not just about how to tell stories, but like you've said, how to tell your story, right? What separates you from other chefs or restaurateurs? Like how do you differentiate yourself? How do you view your work differently or approach your work differently than anybody else in your industry? So talk to me about that concept of being the show, not the commercial. What does that mean?
Sure. Well, I'll share a story with you. When I'm a new dad. I say new, even though my son's 8 and my daughter's 6. I feel like every day is a day to be a new dad. I remember when my son was first born. He was probably 2 years old, and he had a tablet, and he was watching a YouTube Kids video. What do you think was the first digital button that my son learned how to hit?
Play and pause?
Nope.
I don't know.
Skip.
Scale. Yeah. Yeah, I'm picturing my kids right now. Yeah.
And if that didn't tell me everything that I believe to my core, which is that no one wants our stories interrupted. All humans, we don't want our stories interrupted. When I'm watching the Chargers play football, I don't want to watch commercials. When I'm watching a show with my wife, we don't want to watch commercials. Yet, when we think of advertising and marketing as business owners, we think of interruption. We think of commercials. And I am a firm believer in focusing more on the story, on the educational side and the entertaining side. And if you do the story the right way, you can integrate the products. It's not that I'm against commercials or advertising. I just think that 90% of them suck. And if they do suck, why aren't we focused on the show? If we focus on the show, if we focus on creating something that is entertaining or educational, we can build those deeper connections. And back to what I talked about before, I don't think we need, I mean, we live in a world where we see creators like Mr. Beast that have all of these hundreds of millions of views, and we think that that's the world that we need to get traction, and that's not what we need. I mean, we live in a world right now with ChatGPT and Gemini and all this artificial intelligence. I will tell you that I was in Chicago at the National Restaurant Show. We don't even have 2,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. I had 3 different people from different parts of the country that they came up to me. They said, Shawn, I love your show. And I always ask more questions, qualifying questions, so I can learn, well, which show are you talking about? We have 9 shows that we do. It's, oh, I love this show. How did you find me? Which platform? Oh, I saw your YouTube video. So they're one of the 70 people. And they're my exact people that will listen to my podcast, that will show up to a speech, that will buy my book whenever I publish it, like that are running restaurants. These are the exact people that I want. And guess how people find it? You go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't care that it has hundreds of thousands of views. It cares about the source material. Get good at the source. Get good at the heartbeat. When you're good at the source, when you're good at the heartbeat, you will find the right people that will connect to your message.
That's one of the pull quotes right there. That's so good. I didn't even think about that, and it's so true with ChatGPT. And also kind of liberating. Like you don't need that. Maybe 10 years ago or less than you the views actually counted quite a bit. But I think the landscape is changing as it always does. That's a good point. Did you see a very clear connection to your creation of content and media and revenue for your business? Like, did the restaurant start to grow in popularity from that?
I think we've gotten so many advantages that were unquantifiable in the beginning. But because of brand, because of the work that we've done, we were asked by San Diego State University when they opened up a brand new stadium, Snapdragon Stadium. There are thousands of restaurants in San Diego, but they reached out to our restaurant because we're really good at storytelling. Because when we show up better than anybody else. So from a barbecue branding standpoint, they're like, we're going to reach out to Cali BBQ. We're going to give them this opportunity to be in the stadium. When San Diego Navy base had an open place on their Navy base, they reached out to us. Those are things that, yes, are correlated to the storytelling, to why we're doing what we're doing. But to answer your question, the funny part about storytelling and starting a podcast and being a restaurant owner is in the beginning, people are like, Shawn, you're an idiot. Like, no one's going to listen to your podcast and come and buy barbecue. And that was never the goal. The goal was never to start a, business and marketing podcast so that someone would come to San Diego and want to come buy barbecue from our restaurant. The irony is that now, 7 years later, the most important people, the CEOs that run $100 million, billion-dollar technology companies, when they land in San Diego, they come to our restaurant because of the podcast, because I've had them on the show. So like the most influential people in restaurants and technology, they're landing in San Diego and coming to Spring Valley, all because of that crazy show that I started, back in 2017.
So were you ever really creating content for the restaurant itself?
Yeah, I mean, that was in the beginning. Like if you go to Cali BBQ, we're creating restaurant content to drive restaurant sales.
And what type of content? Like, what's your approach there? What's your tone of voice?
So I recently hired a creator who's done a phenomenal job helping us do a depth of storytelling. So we have my Steven Swiderski will come on camera. They'll do short skits. But really a lot of what we do is show me, don't tell me. The idea of an open kitchen in the beginning for restaurants was let's knock down the wall so that the guests can experience what it's like to see the chef cooking. Well, I argue that every single restaurant owner, every business owner has the opportunity to bring people behind the scenes. Take out your phone and show me the process of how do you fabricate 150 racks of ribs? How do you season the ribs? How do you put them on the smoker? Show me bring me in so that it's not, like I said, it's not a commercial, but it's a show.
People love that
show.
stuff.
Of course.
People love to learn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest, goals of content, right? Educate, entertain, inspire.
Yep.
But yeah, they absolutely love to learn. You had this line I saw on your website that stuck out to me: strategic smartphone storytelling, which I liked, one because of the alliteration, but two, I think that's in fact you held up your phone earlier. I mean, I think that is another barrier for some folks, or limiting belief more appropriately, of like, I don't have the stuff, I don't know what to do, or like how to create content, I don't have a camera, et cetera, et cetera. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that means and what your approach is?
Well, my approach is that the greatest app that exists is the camera app, and everyone has it for free. One of my favorite quotes is an Arthur Ashe quote: start where you are with what you have and do what you can. The reason why we talk about smartphone storytelling is that I don't want people to think that in order for their restaurant to become a media company, or their business to become a media company, that they need to hire camera operators and editors and producers and to have a full production team. You have a production team. It's right here. It's called an iPhone. It has everything that you absolutely need. It's a modern media machine. If you choose to publish, if you choose to record, if you choose to go live. I mean, I just recently, my wife and my kids, for for Father's Day, they just got me these Ray-Ban glasses. I can record point of view from the village.
Oh, sick.
So I can record. There's no excuse. Literally, there's no excuse. Were these expensive? They weren't cheap. They're less than $400, $379.
For a camera, though, right?
For a camera.
Yeah, not for glass.
Not for the glasses. It's for the camera, and it's for the recording, and AI is connected to it, and all of the things. But the reason that I talk about smartphone storytelling is we have everything we need. Like, if my grandfather had an iPhone, we would be able to write his book. We would be able to take videos of him and I going to the village, doing the interviews with, the people that were significant in his life. And I would have a documentary. I'd have a film that I could show my kids. I don't have that because the technology wasn't there. We have all the technology that we need. We just have to have the courage to look stupid, to sound stupid, to make mistakes, to press record, to get a little bit better every single day. And if we get a little bit better every single day, we'll look back. I have 100,000 pieces of content on my phone. 100,000. 35,000 videos. The rest of them photos. I'm just gotten really good at capturing micro moments of life. And I'm so grateful that I do, because now I have, when my son was born, when my daughter was born, as they got older, little videos. I mean, my kids yesterday, we went to the local news here in San Diego, Fox 5. I have videos of them getting ready when they were 1 year old, going to the news station, because we've been doing that since they were born. those weren't produced by Fox 5. Those were produced by my iPhone and me.
What challenges, or how did you overcome the challenges that you faced in your industry during the pandemic? At that point, you were already creating content.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the content was, it just went on, we went all in on content. We went all in on digital. One of our first brand deals was a company called Toast. Toast is a point of sale company. They service 140,000 restaurants across the United States, now in UK. But we did an unboxing video. I told them that we're going to start using Toast, but we're going to start telling the Toast story as a business owner. Like, why are we switching from a legacy point of sale system to a cloud-based point of sale system, and what do we hope to accomplish? Well, we made a Toast unboxing video, and that led to us getting invited to get interviewed by their CEO with Sam the cooking guy during an all hands meeting. Then we got invited to their IPO. So they had an initial public offering, New York Stock Exchange. We were one of 20 restaurants. The 20 restaurants that got invited, way more successful than us. They've been on Toast for way longer, but they invited us because we were the storytelling restaurant. We were the ones that were able to go there and document and do smartphone storytelling. I didn't even bring a media team, but I have content whenever I need that B-roll of me on the New York Stock Exchange with Eric, my business partner and general manager and CFO. We're there. I have that. That's part of my Toast story, and will always be part of my Toast story, because I had the courage to take my phone out of my pocket, take selfies with the CEO the day that they IPO'd, and now we have that. That becomes part of our Toast story for why other brands want to work with us into the future.
Speaking of the future, your approach seems to have been, as you said, being fast, quantity, consistency, and you've had this not slow growth, but consistent growth. And it's culminating now into, bigger interviews and all of these things that are happening. I'm wondering, moving into the future, whether it be short term like the next year or like medium term like the next 5 years, is your plan to continue what you're doing? Because, like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and expecting it to continue to grow? Or are there big changes that you have in mind that you'd like to implement?
No, I think we've hit our stride. We know what we're really good at, and we're going to keep building out the team. Most likely we'll have opportunities to go outside of the restaurant and tech verticals, because storytelling is universal in any business that So I'll give you an example. In the National Restaurant Show, there's 2,200 vendors. So these companies spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a booth. 10 by 10, 10 by 20, 20 by 40. You've all been to a trade show. You've all been to a conference. They're all the same. Trying to get in front of business owners, trying to do new business. All of those companies, of the 2,200 vendors, I would argue that 90% of them have a terrible digital footprint. Terrible website, no YouTube presence, no LinkedIn presence, no Instagram presence, no video presence. They have spent all of their time and effort to do old school tactics, believing that restaurant owners and business owners like me somehow aren't on Instagram. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that we live in a world where there's that much opportunity. So for me, I'm going to keep going after that opportunity, because, the first year, we've been going to that show for 4 years now. First year, I think we had 3 brand partnerships. Next year, we probably had 7. Last year, we did maybe 13. This year, we had probably 27. There's a lot more opportunity to continue to grow.
Speaking of being on those platforms, you have a good following on all of your platforms, I would say. I know you mentioned YouTube, like you don't have but so many subscribers, but it's pretty consistent across the board. And that's one thing I think small brands struggle with, is like, how am I supposed to post short form video on Reels and TikTok, long form video and other places, LinkedIn, as you mentioned earlier. What is your strategy for creating content for all those platforms, and especially recognizing what you said earlier about how each one kind of performs differently or requires a different approach? And do you suggest that people just like start off on one and make a dent and then expand, or how do you approach that?
So our approach is simple. We tell people to start a show. And that show can be on YouTube. That show can be a podcast. That show can be on Instagram. That show can be on Facebook, whatever platform you're most comfortable with. But long form content into short form content. And by long form, I mean 5 to 7 minutes. One show a week. Low stakes. It can be a monologue where you're talking about whatever you care about, your topic. It can be an interview. It can be something gimmicky. Whatever it is, commit to doing one show per week, long form content into short form content. That allows you to get into the public. The problem that I always see is that if you don't hold yourself to a show standard, meaning every Monday at noon, we publish no matter what, 52 weeks, then all of a sudden you see people starting to do seasons. This is a season. And a season is just an excuse. And if you're in the show business, the show always goes on, whether you're there or not. So we're publishing no matter what. And we bring that mentality to our clients that we work with. We create shows for them and we teach them that they need to stack content so that, we have 3 shows in the bank that have already been produced that are ready to publish, that, in the next 3 weeks, this episode's publishing, then this episode. Now we get to keep recording. I mean, like I told you before, I'm heading off to Bulgaria for 6 weeks. I don't need to record another restaurant influencers until January. Wow. We have stacked content. I have done all of the shows that I need to do for this year. It's the Rob Dyrdek method. I don't know if you know Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I've interviewed him. I mean, crazy enough that I've interviewed Rob Dyrdek, but I asked him about this stacking content. And that's, part of the formula is that once you have a show, I don't need to do the show the same time every week. Like I can do this show, we can publish this whenever this comes out and I'll republish it. But if you have a show, you make a commitment, no matter what, this is the day that it's going to get published. This is the day the long form. Then you start to figure out the short form, and then you start to get a little bit better. And back to the original point, once you got the one show in the bank, the 52 episodes, how do we up it to 2? Mm-hmm. Because once we up it to 2, the economies of scale of like really stretching yourself, really stretching your team, and you start to realize, oh, I can monetize this show and I can monetize this. And then I can start to have 3 shows, or I can do a show for another client. And now all of a sudden the whole media revenue starts to make a lot of sense.
Be the show.
Be the show.
I love it, man. That's that's a perfect place to end for today. But I gotta say, man, I appreciate you being on so much, and what I think I appreciate most is the actual real tactical advice that you gave, just like that last one. Like, it's very easy to be like, oh, just, keep going. Yeah. Just create content. We all should do it. But like, that last answer is perfect, and you did it throughout the whole conversation of how to actually implement those. And again, like, all jokes aside, like, I learned quite a bit that I plan to implement. Appreciate you very much, brother. Again, congrats on all the success. It's clear that it came from many years of hard work, which is also inspiring because it's not some magic bullet, right? It's like, no, I've been doing this shit for a long time.
Keep doing the work, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate you. I'm weirdly available. Reach out anytime at Shawn P. Walchef. Instagram's probably the fastest, but Rain, really appreciate you, man. And can't wait to see you in San Diego someday.
Absolutely. I go there quite a bit. So I was thinking that when you were mentioning the people that go to the restaurant, I was like, yeah, next time I'm out there, I'm for sure going. And also, I think maybe weirdly available is another sign of success for folks. It's the people that are like moderately busy that like, oh, sorry, I don't have time.
I have no time.
Yeah.
The most successful people somehow find a time for everything.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck does this person have any time to do anything?
Exactly.
Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Yeah.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
You got it. Appreciate it.
My name is Rain Bennett. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to the podcast. If you're already a subscriber and you're enjoying the show, give us a review and let us know the value that you've gotten from it. We love to hear from our listeners and learn about the benefits that they're getting from the show. That's what fuels us, and that's what fuels the show. And if you've already subscribed and you've already reviewed it and you think there's someone else that would benefit from listening to this show, please share it with them. The more we grow, the more we can help you grow, and that's what we're here to do. Join us next time on the Storytelling Lab.